Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile, the podcast where we walk home from the movies. And this is our end of year movie roundup, our best films of 2023. As always, there will be no spoilers for any of these movies. We are going to go through our top 5 lists, which neither of us are familiar with the others' lists. We keep them very top secret.
Yes, we will count down 5 to 1 in terms of our best movies of the year, top secret lists that are very much subjective to us, what we've seen this year, what we've liked this year. You know, we watch a lot of movies for like normal people, but compared to people who professionally review movies as their full-time job, we don't see a patch of them.
Yeah, we haven't seen all the movies, okay? And I was looking at some other top films of the lists of the year, and I was like, particularly The Guardian's top 50 of the year, I was like, I hadn't seen about 40 of them, and about 30 of them I'd never even heard of. So like, we're a film podcast, but we're really basic bitches. We're mainstream boring people. This and you're going to know from listening to my list pretty much. So that's where we stand. And also, look, these are our subjective opinions, so please don't at me when I make the crazy decisions I'm going to make in my top 5 list.
And then the other categories we will have is honourable mentions, best cinema experience, a new category introduced this year, best scene. We will have most disappointing, and of course everyone's favourite list, the worst of the year. And hopefully you will take from all of this discussion kind of pointers on things to watch that you maybe haven't watched already, and it's a bit of fun. And at the end of this episode you will hear from our patrons, some of whom have sent us their best and worst of the year, so hopefully you'll get more recommendations from that as well. Now before we get into our top 5 list, we do want to talk about a little bit about the year in cinema and what's happened with movies. And of course, we have to begin with the cultural phenomenon that was Barbenheimer. Yeah,
I mean, this was the biggest event in movies this year and in cinema, right? It's like cinema is going through a really rough patch, I think, right now, with, you know, writers and actors strikes, like real studios and creative disputes and benching, HBO like just shelving things that have been completed as tax write-offs.
Well, also when that, like, people, particularly younger audiences, are like even moving away from TV viewing and really focusing on like phone screen viewing, so it's hard to get bums on seats at cinemas.
Exactly. But then Barbenheimer came along and just surprised everyone by becoming this like organic cultural juggernaut of an event, where 2 movies just this is just perfect. You couldn't plan this type of marketing, right? And in fact, they did try to replicate and plan this afterwards with Saw and Paw Patrol by Saw Patrol, but just felt so contrived and manufactured. Barbenheimer was just such a runaway like success. We both went on the same day and had an amazing time. It was great to see our local cinema busier than it's ever been, everyone dressed up, and also on top of it all, they were 2 great films.
They were so good. And what was fascinating is this helped them both. And like traditionally studios would try and not have movies coming out on the same day because naturally they would say people have limited time and money and aren't going to go and see both. Barbenheimer helped them both, but mostly helped Oppenheimer actually to become more financially successful than it would have otherwise become, which I think is fascinating. And it was just so lovely to see such a buzz about going to the cinema, people getting dressed up to go to the cinema, people wearing costumes, the whole thing. And for anyone who's interested in such things, Barbenheimer, by far the biggest cinema episode of the year. It'll be interesting to see if this tops it, because usually this is our biggest episode of the year.
Nothing will dethrone Barbenheimer.
Dave wants to talk about the decline of superhero movies. Dave, I have in your notes here The Flash, The Marvels, Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, Quantumania. Go.
We should say we're driving. We're just going to drive for a little bit. We're driving to a lovely beach destination, although it is raining, so I can't look at my notes. So thanks, Kathy. Look, I think that's just a segue from Barbie. Barbie was the #1 film of the year at the box office, which nobody saw coming. I think it's fair to say. I think we all thought Barbie would be like a really. I expected it to be a really good film. I trusted Greta Gerwig. I thought it would have like a real legs in terms of sort of pop culture and online culture. I did not anticipate this, and most people didn't, it becoming the #1 movie of the year. And we're in a state of flux now where, that is a runaway success. All of the superhero movies that were released this year, I think besides Guardians of the Galaxy and Spiderverse, really just underperformed. Some of them underperformed so massively, like there are crisis meetings happening at both the MCU, and DC also had a terrible year with Shazam, Blue Beetle. Now they're probably sitting a bit prettier because they brought James Gunn in and they've already decided to wipe the slate clean.
Aquaman has just come out and is bombing already.
Yeah, that's bombing as well. But Marvel are in real trouble. You know, for a studio that I have, had a lot of time for and have really enjoyed the output from. Like, they are in crisis. The quality's not good. The quantity went up. The quality went down. Like, they had just had some bad movies. Quantumania was bad. The TV stuff was bad.
The Marvels, though, I do want to say, performed the worst ever opening for a Marvel movie. But it is worth noting that was in the midst of the actors' strike, so they got none of the publicity that they would have gotten, and I think it got unfairly I think it got unfair headlines around that worst opening ever, and it's like, well, yeah, there was no one around to promote it, and I think that wasn't taken into context. Where Quantumania, the word of mouth killed it. Like, it just was not getting good reviews.
Yeah, and deservedly so. Yeah. But just to say, I think this is an interesting transition. Audiences are also just over the superhero thing, and I think studios were just getting lazy. Just throw any old name up, as long as there's a cape in it, people will show up, like Black Adam or last year or whatever. It's just like, we're past that now. People will only reward quality. I think Spiderverse did even better than expected at the box office. Incredibly high quality movie. But this is, I think, like I'm done now with superheroes as an audience member. I'm happy for something else to take over. Is that going to be 10 years of toy movies? I don't think so.
I hope not.
I think that's what Hollywood wants it to be, but like,
just give us good movies with good stories. That's all we're asking for. It does not have to be based on a toy or a comic book. Now, we're going to get into finally, we want to talk about just briefly the actors and writers strike. Of course, that had huge, ripple effect on Hollywood. As I mentioned, it affected movies like the Marvels, but it also meant a lot of movies that should have come out this year were moved into next year.
Dune Part 2, probably the biggest one.
There's going to be a lot of movies coming out next year because of it, and it kind of, luckily for Barbie, they were done with their press tour when this happened, because I think phenomenal marketing on Barbie's end with like Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, the whole crew, America Ferrera. They were just out there pushing this movie like nobody's business, and like studios know that like the biggest marketing tool at their disposal is social media accounts of celebrities who've got millions of followers, and
but also that was the best marketing campaign of the year. They were doing sponsored deals with brands. It was everywhere, and good marketing.
But for smaller movies, a lot of them got lost because they couldn't promote it. Like, for example, Flora and Son or Foe, their movies that got completely lost. So anyway, writer's strike, actor's strike, we support workers' right to unionise. We're absolutely thrilled that they negotiated better deals for themselves. And now on to our top 5 list of the year. I'm going to start, Dave.
Ooh, let's do it. All right, take us away. What's your number 5, Kathy?
So my number 5 best movie of the year is a movie that I just watched in the last week, but I've been excited for a long time, and I watched it without Dave, so sorry Dave, I couldn't wait to watch it with you. It is Saltburn.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. And look, to be fair, you did ask me for permission to watch this by yourself. You texted me and said, do you mind if I watch Saltburn without you? And I thought it might get on your list, and I didn't have time to watch it. So look, and by the way, that's how you need to do this in a relationship. By the way, you must always seek the permission of your spouse if you both want to watch something. Never go behind their back.
Like, Dave knows if it was like a comic book movie, he can watch it without me. Yeah. If you watch Saltburn without me, I'd kill you. Anyway, I was so excited for Saltburn. So Emerald Fennell, the director, she created and made Promising Young Women, which was, I think, my number 1 film the year it came out. Absolutely phenomenal piece of work, feminist piece of work, and speaks to misogyny and rape culture, and it was just quite a film. This, I was expecting her next piece of work, because you often pigeonhole directors, and I admit I did it too. I expected it to be kind of a strongly feminist film again. I am so shocked and surprised and thrilled for her that she's done something completely different, because I think it's a really good thing not to pigeonhole yourself as a director. And what she's done with Saltburn is create something that I can only describe as The Talented Mr. Ripley kind of meets You season 4. If I was to be derivative about it,
That sounds good.
I don't want to give away the plot because Dave hasn't seen it and lots of people haven't seen it because it just came out on Amazon Prime and had a limited cinema release earlier this year. It stars Barry Keoghan, who is one of my favourite actors, and this is his first ever starring role. Did you know that, Dave?
Oh, hard to believe.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal.
It feels like he's everywhere.
He is, but he's always like a really strong supporter, and this was his kind of first lead. And
Great year for Irish actors as well, we should say.
yeah, great year for Irish actors. Another great year. And he's already now up for a Golden Globe for this. He's turned quite the performance in. It's really something to behold. There are so many. Like, if you remember, Promising Young Women has so many kind of really visually stimulating montages and a lot going on. This film kind of takes that up a notch. There's just absolutely iconic scenes of the year, like one involving a bathtub, one involving a grave, one involving Barry Keoghan referring to himself as a vampire. It's really out there. Like, a lot of people don't like this film, and I like understand the criticisms of it. People think it's very shallow or it's not really giving a message, but I don't care, because what I liked about it was that it was just like a really good fun, a really good visual, and I just had a lot of fun with it. And I think don't take it too seriously and put it on Amazon Prime, and maybe just like don't watch it with like kids or parents, I would say. And yeah, that's my number 5 of the year.
Who's watching this with their kids? You mean grown-up kids?
Well, some of our listeners said they watched it with their own kids, and I was like, I can't believe you do that. Anyway, that is my number 5 of the year, Saltburn, on Amazon Prime. Now we are going to take a quick break because we are just arriving at our destination, and then we will be back with Dave's number 5 and the rest of the list.
Yes, see you in a second.
Bye.
Okay, hi, we're back. We are out for a walk along the beautiful beach of Ardmore, County Waterford. We've just taken a lovely selfie, by the way, if you want to go see the sunset on our Instagram at the Cinemile plug. So Kathy's number 5 of the year is Saltburn, available on Prime Video. Now, I really struggled with my top 5 this year because I had 8 movies that any of them could have been in the top 5, and there was a real battle for the 5th spot here between 4 movies, and I really actually feel sad that the other 3 didn't make it.
However, I'm presuming they'll be on your honourable mentions.
Oh, naturally, they're the top of the honourable mentions list.
Okay.
But what I chose to put here is All of Us Strangers, the movie by written and directed by Andrew Haig, based on a novel by Taicha Yamada. And this is a beautiful, beautiful movie with, I think, probably the best ensemble cast of the year. Tough competition.
Incredible cast.
But it's a great cast. Another year of the Irish actors again. Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal, along with Jamie Bell and Claire Foy. I'm going to broadly speak to the plot of this movie. If you don't want to know anything about this, which is how I would recommend viewing it, I would say just please go watch this movie, seek it out, and skip ahead about a minute. But I'm going to describe the general plot of this movie, which is revealed in the trailer and in the synopsis.
And I think
of the
it's
movie.
just coming into cinemas now because we watched it at the Cork International Film Festival.
Yes.
So it will be in cinemas now for people listening.
Yes, it is. But basically, the plot of this movie is Andrew Scott plays a very lonely screenwriter who is able to reconnect with his dead parents as if they were his age now. That's I've described that very badly. But he's able to visit his childhood home, and his parents, who died when he was a child, are there, and he's able to converse with them and visit them. And that's a really interesting idea and concept. And the movie explores that along with his sort of interactions with the other character, Paul Mescal. And it's just a beautiful portrayal of loneliness and longing, and I mean, that is such an incredible concept. And I lost my father 3 years ago, and I was very fortunate that he had a long illness, and we were able to have every conversation and moment that you would want to have with a loved one before he passed away. But when you look at this situation, just 2 parents being unexpectedly taken away from a child, and that concept of everything that in your life that they missed, that you wanted to share from them, that you wanted to get from them, and all of that is explored so beautifully throughout the course of this movie. Jamie Bell and Claire Foy playing his parents. There are so many touching scenes in here which just destroyed me. And if Andrew Scott isn't nominated or should probably win Best Actor next year, it's a really tough competition though with Cillian Murphy and all the other Irish actors.
We've got 3 Irish actors nominees, right? We've got Barry Keoghan for Best Actor, we've got Andrew Scott, and we've got Cillian Murphy. That's quite a high strike rate.
They're all fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is Andrew Scott's movie, and this is I think the best performance he's ever given. It is so
AKA that you've ever seen him give.
That I've ever seen him give, yes. But it is just quiet and beautiful and sad and touching, and this is a fantastic film and everybody should see it. That is my number 5 of the year.
Brilliant. Great choice.
All of Us Strangers. Kathy.
My number 4 of the year is a movie that we watched during the summer, I think on Disney Plus, but we actually never recorded an episode on, which does happen from time to time. Sorry guys that we cheat on you and watch movies without recording episodes. And this was Rye Lane.
Oh yes, yes.
Absolutely brilliant entry into the rom-com genre. It's a British film. It's set in South London. The director herself has called it a love letter to South London. And it is directed by Rain Allen Miller, so it's her directorial debut. So second female director on my list. Hugely uncommon, by the way. And she's a black British director. This film is so weird, and it took me a while to get into how it looks. A lot of it's shot in kind of like a fisheye, whatever that's called.
Which also, Poor Things came out this year as well. Also a lot of fisheye in that.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
And Rye Lane is, I think, visually inspired, and I think the director referenced like some Peep Show stuff. It's a very British film. It's very romantic. So I think, like, for me, when you're talking about romantic comedies, you want romance in them. This definitely has it. It's very funny. I was laughing out loud.
Oh, it's a great script.
I really liked the actors in it. David Johnson and Vivian Oppora. And it was a feature directorial debut. Like, it's unbelievable to come out with a film like this. And it's an independent movie, and I absolutely loved it. So I recommend anyone who's interested in rom-coms, London, watching something a bit different that plays around with how the film looks. I totally recommend Rye Lane, and I absolutely loved it this year.
Is this the best rom-com of the year?
Well, it's the only rom-com in my top 5.
I wrote down. I've got another one.
Ooh, okay.
I've got a few in my honourable mentions. Right, yes, I love that as well. Rye Lane, fantastic film. That's available now on Disney Plus, right? You said?
I think, or Hulu in the States.
Or something like that. Yeah. All right. Right, my number 4.
It's getting windier.
Of the year is something that really hurt me to put it here, because I kind of thought it should be higher. I kind of wanted it to be higher, but there was some stiff competition. But a Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse.
I thought that was going to be your number 1.
Yeah, and I think any other year it would be my number 1.
And in fact has been your number 1 before.
It was my number 1 in 2018, the first film. And I'll say, well, I'll address the reason why it's not number 1. Firstly, there's 3 other films this year which were just, for me, brilliant. Secondly, it was a bit soured, the behind the scenes of this movie, unfortunately, by a very good article by writer Chris Lee in Vulture this year, which sort of spoke about the very unfortunate working conditions of the animators behind this movie. Up to 100 animators left or walked out during the process of this movie. Many said that the working practices were just unsustainable and grueling.
Yeah, it's a very good article.
Unfortunately, my hero, Phil Lord, who is the writer and producer in this movie. Well, no, I still think it's interesting. I recommend everybody to go read the article. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but there's nothing malicious in it. He's not like a James Cameron, where he's just a dickhead shouting at people. It's not that. It's an interesting. It just seems that he is disorganized, or his working process is not suited to animation, unfortunately, where it's about trialing things. Let's see it, let's tweak it, and unfortunately, this process of constantly tweaking things. It works. It produces successful, incredible things that have been fine-tuned to, and it is the product, the output, you cannot argue with the output of this movie. It is fantastic. But what it means is that hundreds of animators are rendering and finishing things, and then some of it's just getting thrown out, or they have to start again, or just
This is a wider problem with the whole industry, the VFX
Yes.
industry. But if that wasn't an issue behind this film, though, would this film be higher up your list?
No, that's not the main reason, because I'm trying to judge the work for the work.
Like, why
but
is
I
this
have
in
to
your
acknowledge,
list?
I have to acknowledge that soured. I'm going to speak about why I love it in a
Right,
second,
okay.
but you asked why it's not number one. I have to
Okay.
explain.
Okay.
So that is that has not impacted the work. The output of this movie is fantastic, and I love it. But the other thing is, this is half a movie.
Yeah.
And we got a lot
that was really annoying.
We got a lot of part ones this year. It became a real trend, and I found them all incredibly irritating. I don't like it. And so I can't, Into the Spiderverse had a fantastic and satisfying third act. And this movie does not have a third act. This is a lot of first acts and a lot of second acts, which are all incredible, but it's just missing the payoff. And so, and I'm sure when this all comes together, and if you could treat 2 and 3, which is probably going to be delayed by years now because of all this, then it will be a singular masterpiece.
And
But
we did do a
that-
really detailed review of this earlier in the year on the feed.
But that is holding it back for me, yes. But the things I love about it, this movie not only this Into the Spider-Verse revolutionized animation, and we saw the sort of other studios trying to catch up with it this year with Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both kind of picking up that baton and trying to do a similar style successfully. And I think they have completely transformed animation. So how do you improve on that, right? Where do you go? But they fucking did, because they widened the scope without losing any of the character study, the emotion. This movie is potentially even more emotional than the first one. I thought it was so beautiful. The visuals are even more insane. There's more worlds. There's more Spider-Men and women who are all so interesting. There's
the
a
only
villain.
interesting use of the multiverse left, I think.
It's the best multiverse
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, we're all sick of multiverses, but this is the original
it
and
works
best.
in this one.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the same actor playing the same character.
exactly.
Like, it's just different because it's animated.
It takes an obscure Spider-Man villain, puts him front and center, makes him comedic at the beginning, and he's ridiculous and hilarious, and then makes him threatening. Like, this movie is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It hurts me that I couldn't put it higher, but that's
I'm
it.
sorry
That's where
for your
Spider-Man
loss.
is.
I just presumed it was your number one all year.
But there are only, I will say, there's a very few films, and I'll talk about them all when we've spoken about them all, that I watched twice this year. This was one of them. I bought the Blu-ray. I'll watch it again and again. I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right,
Okay.
Kathy, what's your number 3?
So, my number 3 is a movie we have reviewed. Another female director. Like, this is astonishing. I've not done this on purpose. Celine Song directed the movie Past Lives.
Oh, yes. Lovely
Absolutely
movie.
wonderful film. And it follows 2 childhood friends over the course of like 20 plus years, and kind of the nature of their relationship. It explores themes around like emigration, culture, your identity, language, relationships. I'm making it sound boring. It isn't. It's semi-autobiographical, so it's inspired by real events from the director's life. I would say it's like a very romantic film, and it's also very wistful, very contemplative. Like, what if, the other road not taken? What happens when you leave somewhere and you move somewhere new, and you think about, what would have happened if you'd never left? It's really beautiful. I love the naughty setting. There's a lot of Skype in this film, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful, and I just thought the ending was perfect, like really perfect, and it's the kind of film that can be hard to nail an ending on. And we've done a really big review on it on the feed, so you can go back and listen. But I absolutely loved Past Lives. It's a stunning film.
Did we do a review on this?
We did, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely stunning film. And it's my number 3 of the year.
And how is that her directorial debut as well?
I know, right?
Her feature film debut.
Unreal. It was only, I had made my list, and then I was like, I must go and get the details on all the directors to make sure I have it correctly, and realise 4 and 3 are directorial debuts.
Oh, I love her. Okay, that's Kathy's number 3. That's Past Lives by director Celine Song. So my number 3 is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is another movie I've watched twice this year, and I love this movie.
Was
to
not
bits.
expecting that in your top 5.
Really? Oh my god!
But I loved it too.
I considered this movie for number 1. I was like, and if I was to pick what is the most Dave Corkery film of 2023,
The question on everyone's lips.
that this is the one. But I'm trying to assess it's not just my favorite, but what's the best. What do I think is the best? And this is
your list. You can put whatever you want on
That's true, but I did put The Suicide Squad number 1 a few years ago. I love this movie so much. This is the funniest movie I saw all year.
It was so funny. The whole cinema was laughing.
It is so outrageously funny. It is entertaining. It has some of the best scenes of the year. It's got an incredible shapeshifter scene. It's one of the best heist movies I've seen in a long time. It picks up the mechanic from the video game Portal and just takes it and then uses it for a heist in some of the most inventive ways.
I would class it as a comedy, firstly.
Yes, but it is also a successful action adventure. It's Guardians of the Galaxy, but done better.
It's not Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's
just a fantasy comedy.
The same format. Outlaws. That's very much a comedy as well, like a ragtag group of people coming together to fight evil. It's the same format.
You've got Chris Pine, so he's better than Chris Pratt.
Yes, we even have a Chris P.
It's the battle of the Chris's.
Yeah, this is it is essentially it is Guardians of the Galaxy. And
spoilers. I'm just going to say it now. It's on my honourables mentions because I loved it so much as well.
Oh, good.
It would never crack my top 5, but I have to say it's a great film, fun watch.
It has a great cast. Chris Pine is very charming. Michelle Rodriguez is great, but really the scene stealer was Regé Jean Page.
Oh
I don't know how to say his name.
Bridgerton.
From Bridgerton, who just I won't say too much. He's so funny. But this is clearly. It's also personally love Dungeons and Dragons and have played it a lot over the past few years. This is made by people who get it, who love it. Clearly, the writer-directors John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. John Francis Daley played Dungeons and Dragons for the first ever time while he starred in Freaks and Geeks. So it's just, I love that. And they just get it. It's a really, really great fun action adventure that I would recommend to anybody. It's very accessible, and that's my number 3 of the year.
Wow. Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
Before I get to my number 2, should we get off this beach because it's incredibly windy and I feel like we'll not.
No, sand in the face.
Will not make good audio, particularly not you just screaming into the microphone.
Yes, apologies for how this probably sounds. Gale force winds. So we're going to come back for Kathy's number 2 of the year right after this. Right, we're back. That's a little bit quieter. We've come off the beach.
Much better.
I'm sorry, before we get to Kathy's number 2, I should say, because in that short period where we turned off the mic, I suddenly had an image of all the people messaging me saying, "What, you think Dungeons and Dragons is better than Spiderverse, you criminal?" And it does. I mean, Spiderverse probably is clearly the better achievement, but Dungeons and Dragons is a complete movie for me, and that really just clinched it. And anyway, so sorry, don't at me.
There's nothing spoils a movie like knowing you have to wait years for the sequel.
And also, this is my list.
Okay, so my number 2 of the year is a movie that we saw at the Cork Film Festival again. I don't think it's out in cinema yet, but fuck it, we saw it this year. Poor Things. Directed by...
Poor Things is also my number 2. So
really?
Yeah. Perfect synergy.
Way.
Yeah.
Okay, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, based on a novel by Alistair Gray. And cinematographer, Irishman, Robbie Ryan.
Yes.
Who was there talking about it, and we just got a kick out of him being Irish. We're just clearly obsessed with when anyone Irish has anything to do with the film.
He's got a great fish eye for cinema.
He does. And in fact, the cinematography is absolutely stunning in this film. Well, I'm going first because it's my list.
Yes, go.
It stars Emma Stone, who is phenomenal in this film.
This is another one that... Sorry, Kathy, just to say, I would also suggest... don't go into this completely blind like we did. Blind. My God, it's such a fun experience to discover what it's about.
It's such a weird film.
Yeah.
But kind of in broad strokes, a bit of a Frankenstein's monster plot. Very odd film, very quirky. People got up and left as it was playing while we were at the cinema. It's very funny. It went down very well in an Irish audience who were all laughing. I could picture another audience not laughing at all if the vibe was off. The reason I picked it as my number 2 now, why I placed it so high, is it's just quite an astonishing like visual achievement. It looked wonderful. It wasn't filmed like in front of green screen and these really extravagant, they built really extravagant sets. They used LED screens. A lot of it looks almost like a painting. You've got Willem Dafoe, who's like unbelievable in it as basically the Frankenstein character. You've got Mark Ruffalo, who's so funny, such a good comedic actor. It's just an astonishing film, really. And like, again, I didn't know anything about it before I saw it, and I was like, couldn't believe what I was watching. And I just like, Emma Stone is one of these actresses who I've always known as a good actress, but she blew me away in this film. She's absolutely incredible in it. And it's just mad, basically. It's like historical fantasy. It's absolutely everything in this film.
It's like steampunk.
It's like up to a notch of 10, 20, 30. Like everything is just so much more extra than you'd expect it to be. Quite the raunchy film as well.
Extra is a great word for it.
It's just everything about it is unbelievable. I really enjoyed it.
I don't think this goes up to 10. I think there isn't a scale for what this film is. It's on no register of you can't compare it to anything else.
And he's a filmmaker who I really like because I loved The Lobster. We both did when it came out. It's such a cool film. I really enjoyed The Favourite, which I have reviewed on this podcast a couple of years ago. He's just he makes odd films and I welcome them and I love them. Dave, why is it your number 2 of the year?
My God, this would have been my number 1 of the year, in fact, except I don't think the end is as good as it could be, or it didn't quite land for me. I think it goes in a slightly different... It takes a little deviation towards the end and then kind of hurriedly rushes its finale.
I didn't find that because it's a very long film.
I did, but I was loving everything else about this. This movie is... I mean, I agree with everything you said. I will just say Emma Stone, though, this is one of those performances where it is just, I mean, it's like being handed, she must have been like, I've got so much to work with here.
But I think a lot of actors would have turned it down, though. I think she was willing to put herself in some very awkward positions.
Yeah, it's a risque kind of role, isn't it?
And otherwise, I think it takes a brave actor to take on a role like this, and then with such relish, like she did.
But what I loved about it is she portrays basically a full life. Somebody, like you're witnessing the maturity of somebody as they experience the world and as they grow up. And she very, I think, subtly, and there's not much that is subtle about this movie.
No.
But she, and it's a big performance, but it becomes very subtle and gradual how by the end she's this full, complete sort of person who, what I loved about it is, this isn't a spoiler, this is the plot of the movie, but she is effectively a character who has a child's brain and is experiencing the world with the kind and asking the kind of questions that our children ask us all the time, but in a grown-up's body. That's a really interesting concept, and it becomes very uncomfortable and twisted in places. But that is such a fascinating lens to view society, and I know this is a weird steampunk version of society, but the way, and this is what I liked about Yorgos Lanthimos's film The Lobster as well. He does the same thing. He sort of just holds up a concept that we all take for complete granted, like people being in relationships, and then puts a little twist on it, and then suddenly you're looking at it very differently, thinking, that is kind of stupid the way we think about things. So that's what I like about him. He's a very accessible filmmaker, but he's tackling big questions.
And he's a real Marmite, though. I think people love or hate his films.
Yeah.
And we just happen to be on the love side.
And I get it. I mean, I understand why anybody would walk out from this movie. But also, I will say, don't be put off because it seems like sort of weird, out there art house movie. This is one of the funniest films you'll see this year. It's like
began, I have to say,
writing is so sharp and weird.
The first 10 minutes I
hilarious.
Was like, we've made a terrible mistake. I'm not going to enjoy this film.
Yeah, it's Emma Stone
like,
playing a piano with her feet.
It's too weird, and at the start I was like, oh my god, this is awful, and then I just fell in love with it and I just embraced it. So yeah, just put aside fears for the first few minutes and I promise it will get good.
Yeah, please do seek it out. It's poor things, both of our number 2s.
Now I'm confused because when you did, I thought you were going to have this as your number 1 when you didn't have Spiderverse. Okay, so my number 1 is, drum roll.
Can I guess?
No.
Okay.
Because that makes for terrible audio.
Okay, go.
A film that's already been mentioned.
Unlike this silence.
All of Us Strangers.
Oh,
Andrew Haigh,
fantastic.
Starring Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal, is my number 1 movie of the year.
Right.
Everything you said about it, of course. It's what's interesting, but that is not why I was interested in it. This film is the biggest thirst trap I've ever seen in my life. The imagery of Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott before it came out was enchanting. I could not wait to see them.
Enchanting.
I couldn't wait for their chemistry. That all delivered in spades. They're both phenomenal. I love to see them on screen together. I now love the fact that the strike's over and I'm watching videos of them online doing interactive stuff, and I just love to see it. Their chemistry is unbelievable. Why it's my number one film is the feeling I had in the cinema watching this, where I just thought, this is such incredible filmmaking. All the stuff you talked about, grief and loss, was really profound. There's a lot about loneliness. And then I guess what struck me the most about it is it's a character, it's set now, but the character is like revisiting his childhood, and he's gay. And it, you know, when you reflect on, and Andrew Haig has talked about this in interviews, the absolute homophobia that existed in the 80s in England, and a lot of it in direct response to the AIDS crisis. It was a really tough time to be a young gay boy, right? Coming to terms with his identity, and then to lose his parents, but to kind of know that if he had come out, they probably wouldn't have been happy about it. That's all very profound.
Yes, yeah, he never allows his own sort of whether or not it's a fantasy or if it's really happening. It feels quite within the lines of his own expectations of his parents.
Exactly, like he has internalized homophobia because of the time he grew up.
Exactly.
So I found that all really resonant. Andrew Haig is a director who worked on a show that Dave and I both loved, which was Looking.
Yes,
which
great
is
show.
around a group of gay friends who lived in San Francisco. So when I heard he was involved in this film, on top of the whole Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott thing, I was so interested in it. So I think there's loads of like lenses to view the film from, whether it's like grief, loss, it's like coming of age, it's a relationship drama. And then it's really fantastical as well, and it's like a bit of a ghost story. There's just so much going on, and then there's just the visual, like the feeling I had of watching, and I thought it was so beautiful. I thought the music was incredible, a lot of brilliant 80s music, and you can't put Paul Mescal in a film and me not love it. Like I know Andrew Scott's the star and he's amazing and it's his film because he's out and out the star of it, but every time Paul Mescal's on screen, it's just like,
oh yeah,
he's hypnotic, for want of a better word, and I just love to see it. I love to see them together. I thought Claire Foy and Jamie Bell were brilliant as well. It's a really interesting film because it's just like a four-hander. Like
it's almost like a play.
There's only 4 characters in it.
It could be a play.
And the director, Andrew Haig, actually went back and shot it in his old childhood home.
Yes.
Which is so cool. And I just love, it's kind of an eerie film as well. Like there's so much going on, it's so atmospheric. Anyway, it's my number one film of the year, as we mentioned already. It's literally, I think, just come out in cinemas. Run, don't walk, to go and see it. And I think it's wonderful to see a gay relationship on screen like this. And like a friend of ours, Nick, was talking to him about it and how much I couldn't wait to go and see it. And he was saying he was kind of fearful because he remembered sitting in the audience of Brokeback Mountain and like everyone sniggering and feeling really homophobic. Or everyone was like, ooh, look, they're gay, and it was like this whole thing. And I was pleased to see that that did not exist in our audience. Everyone was just like absolutely kind of bowled over by the film.
But that's 20 years ago. I feel like society has changed a lot,
but
right?
It has, but I'm just saying I love to see it in a big film like this.
Okay, well, I totally agree, Kathy. Amazing film. That's
but in your mind, Dungeons and Dragons is better, which I respect.
So this is the problem with lists, where you're like, it's really arbitrary, really. You can't compare those two films.
No.
I mean, but we have a top 5, and I must put it somewhere. But no, I mean, yeah. Again, don't at me. I'm not saying Dungeons and Dragons is a superior movie.
You are,
to
though,
all
and
of
that's
us.
fine because it's on your list.
I just personally liked it more.
Now tell us what your number one is, because I can't imagine what it is now.
I don't think you're going to guess this.
Okay.
My number one of the year is Past Lives. By Celine Song, which you've spoken about already, and I agree with everything you said. But I think, when I sat down to write this list, things were moving around a lot.
You were making your list, you were checking it twice.
I was checking it several times. And I think all the films in the top 5 I just put them at number 1 to see how it felt. And as soon as this got there, I was like, and then I started kind of comparing it to these other films, and then I thought about how it made me feel and how kind of confident it was. and how impressive it was.
It was so impressive.
That I know she's a playwright as well, but that she just like, this is her first ever film, and she says, she has this great quote, if you read articles with her Celine song, where she's like, I only realized I could make a film as I started doing it.
That's incredible.
And she was just like, she already knew how to make films. And it's just, and it is, what I love about this so much is that it's a really small film in a way, and it because it's very quiet. It's a very quiet film. And it's with relatively no incident. There is no, it is a familiar, you could boil this down into a love triangle, and the film itself comments on, in its own text, saying that if this were a Hollywood movie, then I would be the bad guy, and we'd all be shipping you two.
I love that line.
And it's perhaps you could look at it as on the nose, but I think that's exactly the core of this. This felt like real.
By the way, I was viewing him as the villain when he said that.
And Kathy was viewing it all wrong, and it was frustrating me during the movie, because Kathy kept going, just kiss her. And any time, if that would have happened, the film doesn't give in to tropes, to Hollywood trappings, to cliches. It just feels like three people, well, primarily two people, just who are real people who have lived experiences, and this is something that happens to a lot of people. I'm very grateful it never happened to me, because I found the love of my life very early in my life, and it's you, Kathy.
Thanks, Dave. I'm number 1 on your list.
But I often think, I mean, we spoke about this when we watched it. We should say this film is about two people who kind of were flirting and had a sort of a connection, but it kind of never emerges, and they meet up several times throughout their lives, and this film spans decades. That's what this film is about. But I often think, what if, life is so funny. Things can, it is just we're all just a series of atoms colliding into each other, and if one little thing happens differently, then maybe you and I it wouldn't have worked out, and then I would have spent 20, 30 years wondering what if, and that happens for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens in this movie, and the longing in this movie, and I think this and All of Us Strangers both portrayed human longing in such profound and beautiful ways. I felt like they were just these two actors who are just magnificent, Greta Lee and Tia Yu.
Yeah,
just
amazing.
On screen, and they are just sitting there sometimes in silence, and you are just longing for them to get together in the most simplistic way.
Yeah.
But the movie never spoon feeds you, it never gives you what you want, and it also never feels like it's just holding stuff back to be mean. It just feels like these are two people bound by circumstance, and the central, I won't say what it is, but the central concept of what the past lives things mean is beautifully explained and explored through the dialogue.
Love
and it's
that.
A lovely concept which links in with Korean culture, and I just found this this is such a mature adult film, which I think I needed amongst all the superhero noise this year. So it is, I think this is the best film of 2023 for me, but really it's not as good as Dungeons and Dragons, if we're going to be honest.
It should have been your number 1.
Yeah.
Right, so Dave's number 1 of the year, past life. Now, should we do honourable mentions?
Let's do it.
Right.
Sorry, we can't escape this wind.
It's just following
It's
us.
just following us everywhere. There's orange warnings out.
So of course,
But we will podcast.
we will always podcast outdoors.
We're in a quiet neighbourhood and I'm shouting. Let's go this way.
My honourable mentions. Shall I begin?
You may begin.
And I'm presuming these are on yours list as well. Barbie and Oppenheimer can never be spoken about separately. Ever again. We even, for anyone who didn't listen to the episode, we recorded them in the same episode because we will jump on any trend, and then we release them both separately.
Yeah, they are two of the three movies for me that almost cracked my top 5.
Same.
And
I had them in and out.
Yeah.
But in the end, they weren't to be. But absolutely, thank you for your service to cinema this year. Barbie, to talk about that one for a minute. Huge fan of everything about it. I absolutely loved going to see it twice in the cinema, actually.
I've seen it twice as well.
Such a good film.
There are
I'm
only
Just
3
Ken.
movies I watched twice: Dungeons & Dragons, Spiderverse, and Barbie.
I'm Just Ken is the soundtrack to our lives. Our 3-year-old loves it.
Yeah.
Sings it all the time.
What a tune.
Sometimes thinks he's Ken. They were so desperate to see the movie. When we put it on for them, they were kind of like, oh, this is really boring.
Our kids will.
They just wanted the dance numbers.
Our kids will sometimes just one of them will just run into a room with us or with the other one and just scream, "I'll see you at the Malibu beach," and then run away again, and they have no idea what that means.
And Dave bought me the DVD of Barbie for my birthday, and I don't think you bought me a DVD in about 10 years, so thank you, Dave.
It's a Blu-ray.
Oh, sorry, the
Just
Blu-ray.
to be clear.
Anyway, huge fan of Barbie. In particular, of course, I'm just Ken sequence, but in fact the whole message, the feminist message, the visuals, the set design, bring back real world sets, bring back proper movie effects that aren't CGI.
One of the best looking movies of the year.
Love it. So that's in my honourable mentions. I presume it's on yours as well.
Yeah, that's it. Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, stunning film. Love to see Cillian Murphy at the helm. We've done a whole long Oppenheimer reviews. We won't get into it, but quite a stunning achievement by Christopher Nolan.
What's so great about that movie is that
wonderful
that
film.
could have been so boring.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And it's I've also found that really profound and moving. I know Christopher Nolan gets criticized for being a very cold, meticulous film director, but I found this to be chilling.
And I don't always like Christopher Nolan movies, and I really loved Oppenheimer.
These are both two fantastic movies.
Films. And again, nothing quite like the fanfare around them, which I absolutely loved. Another film I saw this year that you didn't see, but I did record an episode on this podcast with my friend Brona. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Lovely.
As a very influential book on me as a young girl. I thought it was a fantastic adaptation. I absolutely loved Rachel McAdams as the mom. I loved the girl who played Margaret, and in fact an actor from Oppenheimer.
Benny Safdie, right? Is it?
I think the dad.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. It's a wonderful adaptation. I recommend anyone who hasn't seen it to go and watch it. It's beautiful. Another one on my honourable mentions list, Flora and Son.
Yes, I have this one too.
Which is the latest John Carney movie. He makes great musicals. This film has, some gorgeous music, but particularly the song Meet in the Middle, which we both love.
Oh, lovely song.
I really recommend that. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's just a lovely little movie. If you're into musicals, if you like John Carney, go watch it. Spiderverse is on my honourable mentions because I really loved how it looked, albeit I didn't like it as much as the first film, but visually I find it a stunning film. Foe, I think, got an awful lot of slack this
I wrote
film.
this down as well.
Everyone was... Foe was one of those films, so we try not to look at any reviews before we see a film, or in fact trailers. We gave Foe a rave review.
We loved Foe.
And then I looked up the reviews afterwards out of curiosity. I was like, wait, are we the only people who liked it? It stars Paul Mescal again. Fine, maybe we're a bit biased. It also stars Saoirse Ronan, so again we're a bit biased because they're both wonderful Irish actors. I just really liked the story. I thought it was an interesting premise. It was an interesting setting.
Me too.
And I think
F the haters.
Yeah, and I think the actors' strike did an awful disservice of this one, because I think if we'd seen Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal around promoting it, it would have just had a bit more noise about it.
I just thought it was great. It was really interesting,
sci-fi,
different. I understand. Again, asking the question: is it clear why people wouldn't like this? Yeah, I think so, because the movie doesn't give you any clues to what's going on for 3/4 of the movie.
You need to hang in there with Foe.
Yeah,
but just enjoy the visuals. I think it's a lovely looking film.
Enjoy the performances. They're both brilliant.
Yeah, think about it like a play.
Yeah.
And finally, Dungeons and Dragons, because I had an absolute ball with this film.
Best movie of the year.
Dave, your honourable mentions. Yeah. Anything I didn't mention?
I've got loads. The other one which didn't make my top 5, which might have made my top 5, was Wonka, and I'm amazed you haven't talked about it yet.
Oh my God.
Did you forget about Wonka?
It was supposed to be in my honourable mentions. Thank you, Dave.
Well, here it is. Okay, so Wonka is, I think, probably our...
Wonka's my number 6. It was my number 6
was
on
it?
the list.
It almost crept in.
Yeah, and I think because I deleted it off my top 5 list, I then forgot to put it in my honourable mentions list. So thank you, Dave.
I mean, Wonka for me was one of the year's biggest surprises, because
Absolutely.
not only did I think it looked terrible and I didn't want to see it, but I actively just was hating it. Just the whole idea of a Wonka prequel just seemed so creatively bankrupt, and it just looked. But then I found out.
We just went because we were like, well, we want to go to the cinema this weekend and we want to bring the kids. so let's go to Wonka. That was kind of the decision.
And it was such a delight because I didn't know it was by Paul King, who directed the 2 Paddington movies and Mighty Boosh, and it is just incredible. This soundtrack has been on repeat in our house.
Oh my god!
I think, and gives Barbie a run for its money. By Neil Hannon. It is it's a fantastic movie.
Thank you. That's Wonka, my number 6 movie of the year that I forgot about.
2 other movies, which there you go.
We have done a whole review on it. Like, we love Wonka.
Yeah, you can listen to us talk about that. I'd also like to shout out, I mentioned them already off the back of Spiderverse, but Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, both really fantastic and animated movies that look incredible. They took that Spider-Verse style, but also they took the Spider-Verse style of having good characters and writing and incredible voice actors. The Turtles are finally teenagers, and I believe that they were teenagers. Jackie Chan is Splinter.
I think we reviewed this on our feed.
We did. You can go back and listen to our.
We didn't review
Puss in Boots.
I really liked Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots is a fantastic movie. I know. And just like Wonka, I looked at that and said, oh God, are they still making these movies? And I thought it was a direct-to-DVD sort of vibe. No, guys, don't miss out on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It is legitimately hilarious and really kind of emotionally moving at times, and looks fantastic, and has one of the best villains of the year. Which I can tell Kathy doesn't remember.
Yeah,
that movie just goes from here. I'll shout out a couple of horror films that were good this year. Beginning of the year, M3 Gan or Megan was, not a great movie, but a lot of fun the cinema. And what a brilliant character that is going to live on in costumes and whatever.
And
sequels for.
10 years time, we'll be talking about Megan 10.
Oh yeah, this is a franchise builder. This one, Evil Dead Rise. We both hated. And it was nasty, but needs an honourable mention because it is a really great horror film.
Oh my God, that was awful.
Again, made by an Irish person.
I had blocked that out of my mind. I didn't even remember that film.
Yeah, we both hated it and I wanted to leave, but I acknowledge, because it's so nasty and horrible, but I acknowledge that it is an incredibly good and well-made horror film.
And our listeners are sadists because we got a lot of feedback. It was people's favourite episode of the year because we were so upset by the film.
I was so upset.
So thank you, sadistic listeners.
Things happen in that which I'm still thinking about and don't want to. But it's a great. I'm a fan of the Evil Dead franchise. This moves it up a notch, does something novel with it, and has some really great scenes involving vinyl. A couple of movies that I thought were good that aren't good.
Honourable mentions is not just every film you've seen this year.
No. I've got some good ones. I would like to shout out The Flash and Fast X.
In your honourable mentions?
Yeah, for being movies which are objectively not good, but I really liked both of them. And I know we got a lot of hate for liking The Flash. But to hell with all of you.
What's like foe?
Because we liked it.
We're the only people who like The Flash. We were like, what a romp.
The Flash is great fun.
Nobody agrees with us, and nobody went to see it.
Best superhero movies of the year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 I thought was quite good, and the Marvels did not deserve all the hate it got, and is a fun little film.
Fueled by misogyny, let's just call it out.
Probably that is almost definitely a factor.
It's also not a very good film.
It's not great, but it's fun.
But it was not as bad as Quantumania.
No. Some of the best action of the year for me came from John Wick Chapter 4, which is a really long film with a stupid plot, as always. But it probably, easily the best choreographed action scenes of the year. Just insane stuff. And I will watch those scenes again and again. He falls down the stairs about 100 times, and it's brilliant. Sisu, another great film which came out this year. Fantastic action in it. And then the rom-coms I liked were Florence, which you talked about, Rye Lane, and then Foe I put on the rom-com
Foe was not a rom-com
list for some reason. That's clearly a mistake.
There was not an ounce of com in Foe.
I acknowledge my mistake.
It's a sci-fi dystopian future.
Look, it's right there next to Florence Son. When I was writing this list, I was
sci-fi dystopian
it's a rom-com.
Future.
Oh, Knock at the Cabin I liked as well, even though
Dave,
the ending.
I repeat, this is not just a list of every film you've seen.
You say this every year,
this is
but
honourable mentions.
These are the good films I saw.
Keep it tight.
Yeah.
You just mentioned Fast 10. Okay.
I loved Fast 10. Jason Momoa.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with best cinema experience, best scene, worst movies, and most disappointing movies.
See you soon.
Well, there's chocolate, and there's chocolate. Only Wonka's makes your confidence skyrocket. Put your hand into your pocket, get yourself some Wonka chocolate.
Madam, just one kiss.
Yes, please.
You've never had chocolate like this.
All right, we're back. So we're going to do a couple of final categories to close us out. So firstly, best cinematic experience this year. Kathy, what was your best cinematic experience?
My best cinematic experience. I have a couple for this. I'm sorry. I forgot. I remembered to put Wonka in this. The reason it was probably my best cinema experience of the year was because we were completely taken by surprise by how good it was. So that's a magical thing to happen. The second the singing started, I realised how good it was going to be. And then to see our kids, when I say leaning forward in their seats, like mouth wide open, like in shock, like they've never seen something this good.
They've never had chocolate like this.
They've never had chocolate like this. They've never sung songs as much as they've sung the songs in this movie. And
Oscar, our eldest, knows all the words to a few of the songs. Like, he just sings.
It's incredible.
He's learnt them off.
I was full of so much joy in the film. I literally like cried with joy. I left at the spring of my step. It's such a wonderful family viewing experience of any age, I'd say. So if you haven't seen Wonka yet and you're listening to this, I would say, you know, over the holidays, if you can make it with some family members, I would suggest going to see Wonka. And then, of course, my other best experience of the year had to be Barbenheimer.
Well,
what a day.
I had the same. I had
Best
the
day
same
of
too.
my life.
I had the same too. Wonka and Barbenheimer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, we were together and we had the two same best cinema experiences. But yeah, for exactly the same reasons. Wonka, yes. Barbenheimer. I mean, what more could be said? What a day!
We drove from one cinema to another cinema to catch them both.
We were giddy. You know, I mean, you can go back and listen to our episode, but we were like, I was high.
I was hysterical.
I was high on cinema.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was an insane, beautiful day.
I have never before or since seen our cinema full.
Yes.
So full.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the cinema. I was
Oh
like,
my
look
God.
at all these people who actually want to go to the cinema. Going to the
Barbenheimer.
cinema is my favourite thing. Right. Best scene of the year. A new category.
New category.
Will I tell you my best scene?
Please tell me your best scene of the
You
year.
haven't seen the movie though.
Oh, okay.
It's the last scene of Saltburn.
You're not going to spoil it, are
It's
you?
the last scene of Saltburn.
Oh, so you can't really talk about it, I
I
guess.
can just tell you that Barry Keoghan, what a man, what an actor, what a dancer,
Okay.
and that's all I'll say.
He dances?
If you know, you know.
Okay. And if you don't know,
Go and watch Saltburn.
then you don't know. Because I don't know. But I am intrigued and will watch Saltburn. Okay. I did land on a winner here, which will surprise you. Not to clickbait it. But I would like to call out two contenders which also almost made made the best
What's your
scene.
best scene of the year?
Almost made the best scenes list are Barbie, I'm Just Ken,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic scene, and the D&D heist scene, because I can't stop talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
But Dave, this is not
But-
tell us your top 3 scenes.
The scene I chose is my number one of the year because honestly, it surprised me so much. I leaned forward. I could not believe what I was seeing, and it's in a movie that I did not think was good, and is not going to be mentioned anywhere else in the 2023 list. But it's Strays, the movie with Will Ferrell and whoever else playing dogs, which honestly is not a great movie, and we didn't really like it that much.
Completely forgot this, but now.
But there is a scene which
I know the scene you're talking about.
we've both seen, and I'm going to just spoil the scene now. It's at the end, so if you don't care, keep listening. If you have any inclination to watch this movie, skip forward 30 seconds because the scene that I'm going to spoil now, at the end of Strays, a movie which is about a dog who has been badly treated by its owner, played by Will Forte, and he's trying to return to his owner, and the other dogs convince him that he has been and that point out that he's been terribly treated by this awful human, and so he sets out. It's a road trip movie. I'm going to get in a road trip and I'm going to bite his balls off. And then the movie does that. The 4 dogs hold him down, and they play. Oh my God, what's the song they play over it? It's so.
You've seen, Dave. You should have done the research.
Oh my God, I don't remember. But anyway,
it's incredible though.
they just bite his balls off, and it shocked me.
Yeah.
My jaw was on the floor, and I was like, I
never
can't
laughed
believe
so much in my life.
that this movie's doing this.
It was so funny.
And so that is my best scene of the year, I've decided.
Great choice. But I argue that the end of Saltburn is better. Right.
Right, Kathy, your most disappointing film of the year.
My most disappointing film this year was, I'm sorry to say it, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible.
Oh, that's my most disappointing of the year as well.
What was he thinking?
Well,
We love Mission Impossible. We were so excited by Mission Impossible. Turns out Top Gun was a better Mission Impossible than Mission Impossible was.
Yes.
And this is another film that was absolutely ruined by the fact
that it's a part
that
one.
it's a part one.
Yeah,
What?
and also this movie has an ending, and if you just took off that part one title, and then just like it kind of ends.
And like we've done a whole review on it. It has some great sequences.
There's
like
no
any good
cliffhanger here.
Mission Impossible. It's just
There's a literal cliffhanger.
it was too long and it wasn't punchy enough, and it just did not do what it really, to me, it did not live up to. Like the last Mission Impossible was so good, and it was quite the fall
the
from
last
grace.
few.
Yeah.
Quite the fall out from grace.
I'm not saying it's a bad film, I'm just saying I was disappointed in it.
I completely agree. This is not a bad film. It's actually quite a good film with incredible action scenes. But it just falls short of the standards by which it has set itself
Yeah.
and the expectations that we had.
Like when we turned to each other in Wonka after like 5 minutes and both in shock saying, God, this is really good.
Yeah.
Do you remember us turning to each other Mission Impossible and going, what
Yeah,
the
we both had these faces like
uh-oh.
it's like, and it's just all over the
Something's
place.
gone terribly wrong.
It's got an AI villain, which is
It's
stupid.
so crap.
It's,
Right.
Yeah, it's just not great.
On to the worst movies of the year. I have 3. How many do you have?
Are we not doing most surprising of the year? Did you not do that?
I
Did we not
didn't.
discuss that?
This is surprising me.
Okay, I already spoke about Wonka.
Go.
I think that's the most surprising film of the year for me. But the other one which really surprised me was Disney Pixar's Elemental, which looked really boring and I had no interest in. But actually, I found quite sweet and lovely.
But did it surprise you?
I was surprised by how good that was.
Okay.
But the least surprising movies for me this year were 2 movies that
This is not a category.
delivered. Yes, it is. I'm jumping in. I've just created it. Least surprising
Okay,
movie.
go for it.
The least surprising movie this year was the Super Mario Brothers movie, which made absolutely no effort to be interesting in absolutely any way or to surprise me.
What about that amazing song, I'm Just Peach?
Unlike the Lego. Unlike the Lego movie, for instance, which came out a few years ago and just blew everyone's expectations out of the water and surprised me every 5 minutes. This was just like, oh, can you imagine a Super Mario Brothers movie and everything that would happen in it? Well, this is what happens. And it was just really fine and dull. But yeah, it's second biggest movie of the entire year. Made billions of dollars.
Well, I believe our kids saw it 3 times.
Yeah, no, it clearly works for kids. I think it's just so nothing.
Well,
It's a
interestingly,
nothing movie.
I was asking our kids what their favourite movies of the year was, and I reminded them of all the films they've seen, and neither picked Super Mario.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it didn't leave a lasting memory.
No.
That's exactly it, though. It's just fast food. That's a fast food movie.
Yeah.
The other movie, which
Yeah, but that being said, Elliot the 3-year-old's best movie was Paw Patrol. So I can't say
that movie has substance.
I can't say his taste is very good.
My other least surprising movie of the year was the movie which delivered exactly what it said it would do, and that's the movie Plane with Jared Butler.
I really enjoyed Plane.
Yes, because
It was
it's about
what I needed.
It's about a plane, right?
It's what I needed in that moment.
Kathy, what is your
Drum roll.
worst movie?
How many do you have on your worst list?
18.
No, really.
No, I've got 1, but I'd like to shout out 2.
Okay.
2 other ones,
So I've got
3.
3, so I'll start.
Oh yeah, both. We both have 3.
Okay, so my
The top 3 worst list.
in no particular order, just mentioned by me, Paw Patrol, the mighty movie.
Oh,
What a turd.
that's mean.
It's not mean, it's accurate.
But it does what it does. It delivers for its audience, right?
It may deliver for a 3-year-old, it does not deliver for me. It's very poor, and I think Paw Patrol in general is very lazy.
But I would.
They know it works, and they know it works for their desired audience, and they make no effort for it to work for the adults in the audience, and I just disagree with that as a strategy.
I guess I was about to defend Paw
We
Patrol.
both fell asleep separately during that film.
Yes, but just let me finish. I was about to defend Paw Patrol because that's fine. It's fine to just have kids stuff just for kids.
It's not.
But then I thought, wait a second. Bluey exists.
Yeah.
And Bluey is able to do both.
Exactly. Paw Patrol's indefensible.
Yeah.
Okay, what's one of your third worst in no particular order?
I'm going to shout out Cocaine Bear.
Oh wow, forgot about that.
Which is just, I thought, this was also quite disappointing because it squandered its potential, and was directed by Elizabeth Banks, who I really like and I think is a good director. But this is just a comedy which is not funny.
Yeah.
I found it incredibly unfunny. It is a one-note joke of a movie. What if a bear got into a load of cocaine and was on cocaine, which is admittedly hilarious and it happened. And this movie imagines what if it went on a rampage. But they are not able to wring 2 hours of a movie out of this, and everything they
Should've been
wrote
a
around
sketch.
it is terrible.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Should have been a sketch. Okay. My other worst movie of the year of 3 is Quantumania.
Yeah, that's one of my other ones.
Funnily, after
Yeah.
we reviewed it, one of my friends texted me saying, you guys were too kind about Quantumania in your review. And I think that's because Dave and I always try to see the good in a film. So, like, it's often criticism we'll get from, like, really filmy, particularly really, like, comic booky people maybe will say, like, oh, you were too positive about this, like The Flash. People were annoyed at us for being positive about The Flash.
Yeah.
Albeit we enjoyed it. But
The Flash is
we
much
try-
better than
like,
Quantumania.
we love the cinema and we love film, right? So we'll always try and come from a kind place when we're talking about a film and see the good in it. So while we may have been kind of somewhat positive about it in the initial review, albeit we did criticise it a lot, when I look back on the year as a whole, I think it was the absolute nail in the coffin for Marvel. It was the beginning of the end, rightfully so. It's terrible. You know, there was a point in time where Ant-Man was interesting. This ain't interesting. The CGI was awful. It was one of the ugliest looking films I saw this year. And it was just a big ball of pointlessness. And you know, Michelle Pfeiffer deserves better. Dave?
You're right.
Is it on
Everyone,
your list
it's
as
just,
well?
it's just a lazy.
it on your list?
Yeah. This is one of the 3. I thought it was like you said. I think we were harsh on it when we came out, but we tried to find the good in it. But all that is left now at the end of the year is the bad. That's all I can remember from it.
I can't remember a single good thing about it.
So many just weird, wrong choices. It didn't feel like an Ant-Man movie. It just entered into this weird world.
It was just set up for another Marvel movie. That's all it was.
Yeah, and set up for a villain that they've now had to drop. So it's just an absolute mess over there at the MCU.
Finally,
I think we've got the same worst.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Of course, FNAF.
I'm so sorry to all our listeners who like it.
I know, and particularly Hi Zombie Kitty. We know you love this franchise, and this is an incredibly popular franchise, and we should say
we're
an
too old
incredibly
for it.
popular movie.
Yeah.
This movie cleaned up at
So
the
we
box office.
Absolutely have to categorise
This
this
is just
by,
not for us.
We've never played the video game, so we're not fans of it to begin with, and I think this film is built for fans. Okay, so if you take out fandom and you take out a love, what you're left with is the most boring horror film you've ever watched.
This is excruciatingly
It's
boring.
500 nights at Freddy's. If every night was the most tedious night of your life. I could not believe how boring this film was. I know it's made for very young audiences, so I appreciate there wasn't going to be a lot of gore. However, you can make fun films for young audiences, and this ain't it.
Again, see Bluey, not a film, but like
Not a film and not a horror franchise.
But like, yeah, I would go so far as to say, I know a lot of the fans of this of the franchise did like the movie, but I think it didn't do it any justice for the fans either.
Well,
I think
they loved it though.
you can make an interesting movie for the fans of the thing, but because it sounds like the video game is by all accounts very gripping, and you're in one place and you're trying to manage things like this is just Josh Hutcherson asleep for a lot
it's
of the movie,
unbelievable.
or just like there is no threat.
Also,
and
the
thing that is
so-called twists. Now, again, it's made for people who haven't seen films such as Scream. But for us, they weren't twists. They were just things that were signposted throughout the film and were waiting to be revealed to us.
It's a shame because there's a good movie in here. There's some interesting ideas in it, but yeah, I can't. And look, again, I'm glad it worked for so many people. I'm glad people enjoyed it, but for me, this was the worst and just squandered film of the year, and I hated every minute that I was in that cinema. Right, Kathy, does that bring us
Was
to...
that it? That was what were your 3 worst?
That was it. Cocaine Bear, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania,
Right,
and
yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Mine was Quantumania, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie. I can't believe that wasn't on your list.
No.
Or it's so insignificant you just forgot about it.
Well, I forgot. You can't really judge a movie fairly that you fell asleep for most of it. And Mayor Humdinger turned into a giant. I mean, what more do you
wow.
want?
What a year in cinema. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening so much. And what we're going to do now is close out the episode with some of our patrons who have sent us in their best and worst movies of the year. Thank you so much to our patrons. We've had another wonderful year with you all. We watch a retro movie every month with our patrons. They decide what we're going to watch. It's so much fun. We kind of watch a lot of TV over there as well, and we do like monthly TV reviews and kind of episodic recaps.
It's a great community. We just have like basically the equivalent of a WhatsApp group in there as well.
Yeah, it's so fun.
We're all just chatting, and it is and so thank you by the way to all of our patrons this year for continuing to support us and helping us to make this show. And thank you to all of our listeners as well.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's
who's
stuck with us all these years. We were very fortunate as well this year to win Best Arts and Culture Podcast at the Irish Podcast Award, which we're very grateful for. And again, we couldn't have done any of this without the sort of support of our listeners, some of whom have been with us for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
right?
amazing.
And so we love doing this, and thank you to Kathy. Thank you for being my lifelong partner that I did find and don't have to experience the what if past lives style.
Thank you, Dave, for being a wonderful podcast editor.
That's all?
That's all.
You're so lucky you found the podcast editor of your dreams.
I really did. So thank you everyone for listening. If you want to give us an end of year present, we would love if you head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us 5 stars. It makes a really big difference to us. So if you haven't done it before, we'll ask that you do.
Or just tell a friend.
Tell a friend. And now here are our patrons with their best and worst movies of the year.
But sorry, before we get to that, the best TV episode is also coming. That's going to be coming tomorrow. And I'm also going to be talking about the best games of the year, as always, with Tom Silcock.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi Dave and Kathy, I hope you're doing well. So this year I didn't really go to the cinema too much, but I do have 4 films that I'm quickly going to highlight. So number 1, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Godzilla -1, that is Toho Company's new Godzilla film. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I am counting this as a 2023 release because it came out in the UK earlier this year. Dave and Kathy, I know you didn't enjoy this film very much at all, but I have to also include the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I've been waiting 8.5 years for this film, and as a huge fan of the books and the games, I really enjoyed it. I saw it opening day in a packed cinema, which is very rare for my local cinema. Some people were dressed up as some of the characters, and it was just a really fun experience. It's probably also my favourite cinema experience of this year as well. But that was my best of films for 2023. Dave and Kathy, I hope you have a good Christmas and a new year.
Hello, my dear Cinemile, and thank you for all the miles that you've clocked in this year on 2023. Best movie for me, Past Lives. Just loved it. Came out crying, and any movie that makes me cry, I absolutely, dearly, dearly love. Worst film is trickier because I kind of love everything, but maybe Ghosted, that Chris Evans thing. And I love Chris Evans, I love Anna de Armas, but it just didn't work. So yeah, maybe.
Oppenheimer, wow, just really fast 3 hours. I'm guessing that Christopher Nolan couldn't have thought it would have been such a success. Amazing sound, and Robert Downey Jr. was just excellent. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That just took me right back to school. Loved this, and Kathy Bates looked fabulous. Dungeons and Dragons, Honour Amongst Thieves, great fun, and it had Jonathan. Dead Reckoning Part 1, just great fun. And Flora and Son, I loved Eve Hewson in this, and it was a shame not to see Kathy's mum. Napoleon was disappointing, but I'm going to do a second watch once it's streaming.
Hey Dave and Kathy, Johnny Keys here. My favourite films of 2023 were The Holdovers, which doesn't come out till mid-January in the UK, but it's just absolutely incredible. Paul Giamatti. If not that, there's Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, John Wick Chapter 4, Barbie, obviously. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's so good. And just the thrill fest that was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Worst films, Cocaine Bear, Hypnotic, Murder Mystery 2, and Ant-Man Quantumania.
Hello from Gatwick North Terminal. I'm Sam Clements from the 90 Minutes or Less Film Fest.
And I'm Louise Owen, also from the 90 Minutes or Less Film Fest.
Dave and Kathy have kindly asked us for our besties and worsties of 2023. So I'm going to start. My favourite film of 2023 was Oppenheimer, which is very out of character for me, being 3 hours long. Bonus under 90-minute recommendation, though, Rye Lane, now on Disney+. 82 minutes, would recommend that.
In order to not double up, I'm going to go for a different movie. I think my favourite film of the year is Asteroid City.
Lovely stuff, Wes Anderson. My least favourite film of this year was A Good Person, directed by Zach Braff, and like Oppenheimer, also starring Florence Pugh. But this one was really not good. Such a miss.
My worst film of the year was the Super Mario Brothers movie, just completely devoid of life.
Hi Dave and Kathy, Stephen from Cambridge here. Thanks for all the podcasts this year. I wanted to mention a few. Comedy first, Bottoms Done Money, Theatre Camp Joyride, Dungeons & Dragons, Pope's Exorcist, does that count? Horror, Pearl was a real highlight. Sisu, Evil Dead Rise, Talk to Me, Infinity Pool. True highlight for me though was seeing Stop Making Sense at the IMAX. First time I've ever seen that in the cinema, and that was an amazing experience. Happy New Year all, bye bye.
Hi Dave and Kathy, this is Kate.
And Neil.
From the States. And this is our best and worst 2023 movies. My best list includes Talk to Me. I just thought it was really original and kind of fun. And Saltburn, which I don't know why, I just can't get it out of my brain. It's like, it just lives in there now, and I love it. And Thanksgiving, because it was super fun. It's a really bad movie, but it was so fun. And Beau is Afraid, just because I love Ari Aster so much. And I liked When Evil Lurks. That was kind of an interesting, different movie that kind of was really disturbing. Okay, Neil, what's your favorite? Oh, I liked The Meg too, as well.
So to go on from there, The Meg 2 was probably my worst because
you're no fun. It
was just a terrible movie that they tried too hard on.
No.
And we didn't need all the plot that they tried to shove into there. So that's my worst. Best, Barbie and Oppenheimer were obviously good, but everybody on this podcast knows that. So I think I agree with Kate. I think Saltburn was really good. And maybe some of you haven't seen it. So that's definitely one to check out.
And my worst was Saw 10 because I just want a dumb, gory Saw movie, and they tried so hard to like give it plot, give it meaning. Jigsaw was doing like capital A acting, and I just didn't want it. I want traps, so that was why it was bad. And then Five Nights at Freddy's because it was super lame and like not gory at all and not creepy at all. And I had Tetris on there because Neil was super excited about Tetris, and how can a movie about the KGB be boring? But it was fucking boring, so.
Hey Dave and Kathy, just want to share my best and worst of movies this year. So best movies, number 1, Tetris, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Barbie, Fast X, and Oppenheimer. And the worst movies I saw this year, only 4, The Marvels, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, just didn't live up to the other Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania, and then finally, time-travelling Indiana Jones. It just let me down massively. I'd put it also as number 5 if I could enter it twice.
Hello, this is Tim. I'm waiting for the bus in Staines. And here's my list of best to worst films I saw at the cinema this year. Number 1 was Taylor Swift Eras Tour, which I know is weird, but it was the best experience I had in the cinema. Then Matilda, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Wonka, Theatre Camp, Barbie, The Flash, The Fabelmans, Talk to Me, Guardians of the Galaxy, Across the Spiderverse, Indiana Jones, Elemental, and very last was Super Mario Brothers. Thanks. Love the show.
'Cause I'm just kidding. Anywhere else I'd be a 10. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility? I'm just kidding. Where I see love, she sees a friend.
I'm Laura.
I'm Lauren.
And this is Go Love Yourself. She went, you're 26? I
was like, size 26, yeah. And she was like, oh, right, that makes sense.
This is the show where we're learning to love ourselves a little more and taking you along with us.
I grew up never seeing anybody that looked like me, and that made me feel like not part of society, like almost like not a woman, because I just never felt like I fit in.
If you've got a relative that is mean about your body, Laura, what do we say to them?